Coming up on Tech News Today, we'll tell you all about the next iPad, or at least what All Things D says the next iPad's going to be. Google takes on Dropbox, and what will and will not be in Windows on ARM. One of the things it gets is a new acronym, WOA. All that and more coming up next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Thursday, February 9th, 2012. Tech News Today is brought to you by Gazelle, the easy way to sell or recycle your used electronic gadgets from your home or office. Don't just sell it, Gazelle it. Gazelle your used gadgets today at Gazelle.com. Welcome to Tech News Today, and I mean that. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm definitely Sarah Lane.
I'm probably Iyaz Akhtar.
He's not sure.
And I'm Jason Howell.
And joining us is Scott Johnson. We're sure of that. Are you sure you're Scott Johnson?
Yeah, last time I checked. I try to do that before I come on. Today I kind of forgot, but I think I'm all right. It's awesome to be back with you guys. I love coming on.
Thanks for coming back. We have some big heavy hitting stories today. Some Alex Rodriguez's of stories.
Yeah, so put your helmet on.
They all took steroids. We start off. Actually, the first one's a rumor. We should have the rumor mill.
Oh, well,
Can you call it up on a moment? Or is it buried deep in some?
it was buried a little deep.
Jason Howell, though, he pulled it out.
That is impressive. I know how hard that is to pull out.
All Things D reports that sources tell them Apple will hold an iPad event in the first week of March in San Francisco. So All Things D has a pretty good track record on these sorts of things. The new iPad, according to their sources, would be similar in form factor to the iPad 2, but run a faster chip, have an improved graphics processing unit, and feature a 2048 by 1536 Retina display, or at least something close to that. This, Ars Technica points out, is the same week a year later from when the iPad 2 was announced in 2011. So it'd be fitting the pattern. Apple likes to do things, pretty rigorously at the same time every year. And if that follows that pattern, we would see the iPad released for sale a week after it's announced.
Yeah, that makes sense. You also would get word of an event probably a week before that event even happened. So if that case, if you go back about 3 weeks from when we'd expect to see these iPads, that could be any time now.
Yeah, Apple's been like clockwork with their products. And when the iPhone got pushed back and it didn't show up when people were expecting,
insanity.
It was supposed to be like June. It's June. There's supposed to be a phone. Where's
dogs sleeping with cats?
So it's not
iPhones coming out in the fall.
Considering that the upgrades to the iPad 3 are rumored to be a Retina display, and the design hasn't changed too much, improved cameras and things. So some components would be different, but there has been a radical redesign, at least according to the rumors. It seems like it'd be pretty easy to get on a year's schedule versus what they had to do with the iPhone. I guess they had to figure out how to fix that antenna issue. So there's less issues with the iPad.
That's why it was delayed to the fall? I don't think that's
I thought it was because they were trying to get one phone for all the carriers.
That
was part of it.
That carries a little more weight with me, is trying to shove all the chips in there. I think they switched it to the fall because they realized that the iPod line just isn't carrying the weight that it used to.
I agree. Leo and I were just talking about this on iPad today. It's like if they've got their iPads kind of reigning in March, so it's 3 years in a row. If this rumor turns out to be true, it just makes more sense to balance out the year with a nice big iPhone announcement. Then you kind of get right into the holiday season, back to school. It makes more sense than March and then summer and then nothing. Because the iPods are on decline.
And the phone and the iPods they're not so much in decline as they are in parallel now. It's like, well, if they're going to release a new iPhone, typically if you're an iPod user, you're really into that side of it, you go, oh, I'm going to be looking at a similar feature set coming down the pipe here in a couple of months or something. And so it's less dependent on its own ecosystem and more dependent on what is iOS doing, and that is led, that charge is led by the iPhone. But I don't think interest has necessarily waned. I just think it is, shifted to be sort of in line with the same goals the phone has in a lot of ways.
The restructured schedule also helps all the Apple blogs out there. I know I used to write for certain sites, and you'd have to go, what are they doing in September? Nothing.
The rumors are all pretty much claiming the iPad 3 won't be that much different design-wise from the iPad 2. The Verge claiming it won't have a quad-core processor, though it will have an improved GPU. Cult of Mac has some images provided by iPatch, leading iPhone, iPod, and iPad repair specialist in the UK, and it shows pretty much parts that indicate that the new iPad would not look that much different. Have a little different internal situation, a bigger battery, for instance, but really, it looks like we're going to see an iPad that looks like the iPad 2 for the most part. What's going to be the selling point then? With iPhone 4S, it looks like the iPhone 4, but the selling point was Siri.
Well, the selling point was also a much advanced camera, at least for some people.
For some people, yeah. Siri
I know you're
was
not a
the
big camera guy.
thing they pushed.
Yeah, but how many people are using Siri regularly?
How many advertisements do you see for the camera versus for Siri?
Well, that's because you're talking about a feature that didn't used to be there before.
Well, that's what I mean. What's the hype feature? I know I shouldn't belittle the camera. It is a big improvement, and it's very important for a lot of people. I'm just not a camera person, as you say. But Siri's the thing they're really hanging their promotional hat on. I'm wondering,
Siri on iPad?
Why not? Do we get Siri on iPad? I haven't seen anything in these breakdowns and these leaks that show a second microphone port, which is what you would need for the noise cancellation.
Yeah, but they certainly have the capacity. I would actually be a little surprised if there was no Siri on this iPad because, again, you have the same sort of 4S problem where so many people, even though the 4S sold like hotcakes, but you had a lot of people out of the gate saying, this is not that big of a change. I'm a little disappointed.
I think the selling point is going to be that Retina display because the thing is when you go from an iPhone 4 or higher and then go to an iPad, you start noticing right away that it's lower resolution.
I must have bad eyes because I really don't have a problem with the resolution on the iPad as it is.
I notice it every time I switch back to an iPad and it drives me nuts. It looks jagged. It looks like it's this old kind of display. And so I'm thinking that's going to push it. I think they will have improved cameras on this because they will push the FaceTime stuff more, I think. They pushed it before. Every time they show FaceTime, it's that feeling. They always do that commercial like, you're connecting with your grandkids or whatever, and they always can push that. I'm thinking Siri's definitely coming because the thing is, with that different A5 chip that actually had that technology from a startup, I can't remember, but they built in extra noise canceling. So even if they don't move to a quad core, but they use the same processor that's in the 4S, that has that.
Well, the A5's already in the iPad too.
No, but see, is it a different A5?
No, it's the same A5
that has the same technology.
Yeah.
So then it just needs another microphone, which probably would easily fit in the housing of that iPad.
Pie in the sky. This is what I want from iPad 3 with Siri. Siri, I can use it to switch between apps because you figure, like on an iPad, you have not only. Well, not necessarily more apps, but more robust apps, and you just have a lot more storage, and it's faster, and you've got more screen real estate. The other day, I actually asked Siri, open up Downcast app. And Siri's like, Sarah, I can't do that. I'm sorry. And I was like, I
think Apple opened up some APIs for Siri so that applications should be able to take advantage more of Siri.
But if it was in the Apple interface itself, at least to be able to switch between apps, you could get to a lot of the stuff that's buried in your settings right now.
I'd love a built-in app that would, as part of the launch, if they're going to make Siri the big deal, an app that would let you set certain voice commands. So it's kind of along the lines of what you're saying, but be able to say, I don't know, a dumb word like horse if I want to run the calculator. That's stupid, but you know what I mean. Be able to just assign quick gesture type words instead of me having to go, Siri, please run Hero Academy. I'd rather just say hero or something and give me that kind of control. And also let's get that on an update to the phone. That would make Siri infinitely more usable for me. But I can tell you this, if this is no scientific proof of anything, but the feedback we get on AppSlappy and the conversations we've had around that table for months now has been this. The reason a lot of people held off on getting an iPad 2, including my two co-hosts who didn't get it, they held off because they waited for a Retina display. So I think Iyaz is right that is going to be a huge selling point. Mm-hmm. And if it's stunning, and even if they don't really kind of get close to as Retina as they can do, right? I think people are going to flip out about that. That's going to be a big selling point. That's one of those graphics sell stuff. It sells video games, it sells TVs, and it sells iPads, I believe. So I think that's going to be, the big kicker. I can't wait. I'm pretty stoked for whatever
also,
it is.
Sarah's persuasive abilities have been working on my mind throughout this conversation, and I think camera in the iPad 2 will be upgraded. The camera in the iPad 2 is awful.
It's worthless.
So iPad 3's got to have a better camera.
It's darn near.
Yeah.
It will have a better camera. Is it going to be as nice as the iPhone 4S?
Who knows? Probably not.
Doubtful.
Yeah.
But it's it's moving in that direction.
All right. Ina Fried sent us a email this morning saying, I wish I could have told you this to you guys yesterday, but the news has broken about Windows on ARM.
I thought she was going to give us a scoop.
When I saw that email, I was like, I knew it. Well, it turns out there's a desktop on the Windows for ARM variant. So in an interview with All Things D.
And by the way, we have an acronym now. Instead of calling it Windows on ARM.
It's WOA. But that was actually mentioned in Steven Sinofsky's 8,600 word blog post on the Windows 8 blog. I will save you some time by kind of giving you a synopsis. Here's what you should know. There's going to be there's a desktop. There'll be Office apps that are specially made for the ARM version. The wording was Windows on ARM includes desktop versions of Word, Excel, and whatever. So it looks like it's built into the Windows on ARM desktop. If you buy a tablet with Windows on ARM, you get Microsoft Office? That's what it seems like.
Seems to be implying that.
It definitely implies that. I don't know if maybe it'll be like a trial version that you have to upgrade or something so they get some money out of it. But I'm not sure exactly what that means right away. There's actually some screenshots of what Office looks like. It's a little flatter. There's no ribbon. It's kind of different looking. And there's going to be some other Windows desktop applications if you want to use something like Explorer. You want to actually bother to you can use your file
or Internet Explorer.
And the Internet Explorer that should be able to do other things. And Sinofsky was pretty clear. He says those applications will run on the traditional Windows desktop, but they're the only programs allowed to do so. So third parties won't be putting out their desktop apps for the ARM version or WOA's desktop. And WOA will not be available for software only. So if you wanted to buy your own version of this and you wanted to put it on your Tegra 3 powered machine, you can't do that. And it also will not be available on the 29th. On the 29th, the Consumer Preview Edition is coming out for Windows 8. That will only be for x86.
I love how anybody who's sort of confused by all of this, now hold on a second, now which is which, that Sinofsky wrote like an 8,000
let me make it clear.
Oh,
yeah.
Let me simplify this.
And there's a video.
You've got a couple hours. I will lay it out for you.
Yeah. For what it sounds like to me is Microsoft is saying, look, Windows on ARM is meant for tablets, and tablets work differently. We don't put out beta versions of the tablet software. We don't sell boxed versions of tablet software. You can't go buy the iOS for iPad off the shelf, and you don't need the Windows desktop on a tablet. A tablet is going to use the Metro interface, but because we're Microsoft, we'll bend a little bit and we'll allow you to use the Windows desktop because it'll still be there for a few things that we control the experience of. But that's it. Everything else is going to be in that Metro interface. What I want to know is why are they bothering to include anything then? Why give me I guess I like the idea of being able to look at the File Explorer in desktop, but why give me Office in a desktop situation?
I actually think it's a selling point for consumers in a sea of stuff that makes no sense to consumers. I mean, I'm listening to Iyaz describe it, and he's talking about my grandma doesn't know what ARM is, and she doesn't know what WOA is, and she's certainly not going to know what any of those other words we've been using are. She's going to know what Office is, and so that might be a selling point for her. But I can tell you she knows what an iPhone is or an iPad is. It's a weird marketing thing that some tech companies do that just confuse people.
But that's exactly my point, Scott, is why make a Microsoft Office that's in the desktop on the tablet? Because when grandma or grandpa picks up that tablet, or even young person who just doesn't care about technology picks up that tablet and they click Microsoft Office and suddenly it looks like the Windows desktop, they're going to be like, why does it look different? Takes you out of the experience.
Well, when they showed the preview video, it doesn't really. They showed Office in like a full screen display. It didn't really look like the old version of Office. It looked Metro inspired, so it looked very flat. No crazy ribbons. There was a file menu, a couple menu options. So it seemed like a simplified version of it. It didn't. I don't know how different it is because it's obviously built from the ground up.
But you can see the ribbon down at the bottom, and that's what you would not see in Metro.
You'll see the taskbar on the bottom, right? Yeah. That's the big desk. That's the desktop, effectively, is what you get to see. And a little clock on the bottom right and icons on the left there. I figure the reason why you do this is it's pretty simple. When people are using tablets and they go, okay, look, I need to do this particular thing with Office or just any doc, it's usually some weird workaround to get it to work on a tablet. And I don't think Microsoft could figure out a way to give you some kind of Office experience that wasn't like, okay, look, we'll give you this desktop thing because you might have to manage your files. And we don't want to introduce a new file manager. You probably know Explorer, so let's show you this. Because if you're going from your from your laptop to a tablet, or if you're going from your workplace to a tablet, you'll have a consistent experience for that, just those few times where you want to actually access that. Because I know with an iPad, like, oh, okay, great. What do I use for this? Or on an Android device, how do I get my docs? Oh, this is not good enough.
Well, it seems like we'll be seeing these tablets on sale by the end of the year.
Oh, that's right. And for the grandmothers who are going to be confused.
Or young people.
Or Scott's grandmother. I was just
Scott's
picking
grandma,
Scott.
To be fair, Scott's grandma's a Linux user.
There's a quote from the Post.
And she does it from the grave, I should mention.
The quote from the Post. While not
Linux user.
Not the topic of this post, we want to assure you that when a consumer buys a WOA PC, it will be clearly labeled and branded so as to avoid potential confusion with Windows 8 on x86/64. So there you go.
They'll be branded Windows WOA?
I don't know what the WOA was.
Let's see, grandparents don't know what x86 is still. See what I'm saying? Like, that doesn't answer the problem at all. This kind of speak.
We want to apologize to all the grandparents in the audience, which I know there are.
I know.
There are a few yelling at us
Screw you
right
people.
now.
I know all about this stuff. So.
It's interesting that it's like after one more generation, like you won't be able to make grandparent jokes because everyone will be like, nah, I've been using computers
You can barely make
a long
them now.
time.
Exactly. Pretty soon it's going to be like just incorrect.
It's still my go-to. Like my grandma could use it. It's that easy.
Yeah. Why grandma? Why always grandma? Poor grandma.
My grandma didn't really know much about
grandmas
technology,
of the world
so.
unite.
That's right.
All right, let's. We got a couple of new Google products being rumored. First one is the long sought after G Drive.
Yeah, so this might sound like we're back in 2007 when I say that Wall Street Journal is reporting that Google's about to launch G Drive, and it's only weeks. Maybe months, but not that long away. The only thing that's really different about this rumor this time is that apparently it's now just Drive rather than G Drive, Google Drive. And the fact that now there are a lot of other established companies that do what Google Drive was supposed to do back in the day when we all went online storage, cool, how
Crazy.
much? Some for free? That's great. You've got Dropbox now, you've got BoxNet. Back in the day, let's go back to 2007, Google was already, had already experimented with giving people free access. They had like 1 gigabyte Picasa storage. Then you could pay for 10 gigabytes. It was $20 per year though, so it's a lot expensive, even a lot more expensive than some of Google Docs offerings now. You could go up to 400 gigabytes for $500 per year, so it was more for business users. Google Docs wasn't even in the mix yet. I mean, there was Google Docs, but you weren't allowed to share files between the properties. And then they had competitors like Microsoft's SkyDrive or AOL's XDrive, Apple's iDisk. Those were the sorts of competitors we were talking about back then. Landscape's very different now. So what I think Google needs to do, and I'm sure that this is going to happen. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to happen in the next few weeks because it's sort of like we've heard this crying wolf thing before. So I don't know what's exactly different now, besides the fact that TechCrunch apparently saw some changes that were made to drive.google.com and thought, well, somebody's working behind the scenes over there, so it must mean maybe that people are about to push out Drive. What's different is that they've got all these competitors, but Google also has this huge market. So if they can undercut Dropbox, right now Dropbox is about $10 a month for 50 gigabytes. Now that might not seem like a lot, but Google Docs is like 80 gigabytes for $20 a year. So, I mean, they can offer more storage for less money because they have more people. I mean, just look at Google Plus. They have a huge amount of users, largely in part because people just use Google products already. Yeah. So it was easy for them to transfer over.
I look at all these things, and I look at Dropbox, and I look at Box.net and all of these folks, and I know I'm probably an outlier here, but the reason I don't get excited about them and the reason that I don't use them more, although I use them to a short extent, is I really would like to just store all my files in the cloud, but they don't give me enough room. I have a 650 gigabyte hard drive here. Now, I don't need all 650 gigabytes in the cloud, but I probably need 200 or 300 gigabytes, and you just cannot buy that unless you're an enterprise customer. Not from these kinds of services.
Right. I would think that Google Drive would know this about people and would know that people say, listen, I'll pay for something that's just a little bit simpler where it can all be in one place, and I know Google and I use it all the time, and I'm already using Google Docs anyway, and there might be some sort of a business plan for people like us where we're sharing files with each other a lot more than just the average person and some friends, that would be a plan that they'd be foolish not to offer.
See, Drive seemed like it made a lot more sense a couple of years ago. Now there's Google Music. So, like, what are you going to put up in the cloud anyway? I'll put up my music. Well, there's Google Music for that. I'll put my docs up there. I can upload it on Google Docs already. What other files do I want to upload? You can actually upload a whole bunch of things to Google Docs. People don't take advantage of it. You can't.
Yeah.
Some people email themselves attachments to keep these files.
Yeah, but
I'm saying
that's fragmented. I want a place where I point my folder that has all my data and say, put that there.
Right.
And I don't have to think like, well, put that there, but don't put that because that's the music file. Oh, and don't put those because those are the docs that I can't upload to Google Docs.
But then why go through the process of launching Google Music so soon?
That's a different product.
I'm thinking arguably Drive is like this overarching thing that accesses all your Google stuff. And it's almost like a file manager. Okay, my stuff's on Picasa, or it's on Google+. My photos are. I don't really know where they are. I would much rather go to, I guess, my Google Drive, click Photos, and there they all are. It could just be an organizational method as well, because the thing is, Google Drive definitely makes sense if Google's going to keep trying to do this Chromebook stuff. If they want to do Chrome OS, and they go, look, you don't have to worry about everything. Everything's in the cloud. Here's your space. Go to Drive. I mean, I think it's probably more of an overarching thing at this point than just a storage area.
I hope it's more files or more general files and stuff. I'm looking at a folder right now. It's so funny you guys are talking about this today because I am struggling with this right now, trying to come up with the best solution for trying to back up some stuff. So I'm looking at a folder of over 1,600 different episodes of podcasts I've recorded since 2005. It's a lot of shows. I want all of it safe. You never know if they're going to be on FTPs forever or any of that. So I want to make sure this stuff is in a place where I can count on it. And I don't know who to use. I mean, it's just like, it's frustrating. I'm totally with Tom on this. It's like either just let me do it all and I'll pay a reasonable, we'll pay a price that's commensurate with the service or not. I can't do these little, 10 gig a month, 20 gig a month things. And I just need somebody to be simple, easy, and go for it. And this sounds like it's more about Google products than it is about all my stuff.
Well, if this rumor is to be believed, and let's just say, for the sake of argument, that it is weeks away, it'll certainly happen before Google I/O. That's not till the end of June, so we'd be seeing something much sooner.
All right. Got another Google rumor separate from this one in just a second. But first, I want to thank our sponsor, Gazelle.com, the place to go to get rid of your gadgets. As I've been mentioning all week, I made $200 easy, like that, by selling my original iPad 1. And especially now that these rumors are coming out about the iPad 3, your iPads are not going to get more valuable. They're going to get less. Same for all gadgets, actually. Over time, they depreciate. It takes a long time for them to start to get old enough to be considered antiques. So if you want to make some money soon, go to Gazelle.com, put in the name of your gadget, put in the condition, answer a few questions. It will tell you how much it's worth. What do we got in there? My iPad 2?
iPad 2, 64 gig with Wi-Fi.
$350. Wow. So anyway, you should go put in your device at the time. You'll get a quote, and then they'll send you a label for either the U.S. Post Office or FedEx. You print that out. You drop it off. It's on its way. Once it gets there, they verify that it's all like you said. They send you money at PayPal. They can send you a check. You get a little more money. You actually get a 5% bonus when you ask for an Amazon or Walmart gift card. Or you can even donate to one of the charities Gazelle works with. And they recycle ink printer cartridges. You just throw them in the box with whatever you're getting the money for. The benefit of Gazelle is you don't have to deal with people. You don't have to negotiate. You don't have to coordinate. You don't have to talk. You just take your device, you put it in a box, you slap a label on it, you send it off, and you get money. It's the easiest way to get money for new gadgets. Gazelle.com, the place to go. And don't forget, when you do check out, if they say, hey, where'd you hear about this? Say podcast, say Tech News Today, and then take your money and do whatever you want with it. Gazelle.com, we thank them for their support of Tech News Today. On to our other Google rumor from the Wall Street Journal. Do they have, like, spies in the Plex over there?
Well, they do get a lot of scoops, so probably.
According to the Wall Street Journal, Google working on a home entertainment center that would stream music wirelessly throughout the home and be marketed under Google's name. That's the big news of this, because they talked about Project Tungsten at Google I/O last year. Project Tungsten would allow you to use Android to integrate into your home and control lights, control automation, and control things like a music entertainment system like Sonos. But this article says the system would let people download digital media like music, stream it to Google-made speakers or other web-connected devices, and would be operated using a smartphone or tablet. So it'd be essentially, they imply Google getting into the business of selling consumer electronics.
Well, right now, Sonos is a household name. I mean, it's not cheap, and they have a variety of different models for people, but I've got that at home, and it's like, that's the only thing that is really a good solution for me, to have speakers in various rooms where I can be streaming my music from a tablet or smartphone or something like that. So for Google to get into something like this, initially I go, Google Music, what? But it does make sense. There is a market for it. And if they can compete with a name like Sonos, and again, undercut them on price, they would have something.
Okay, so Google would go back into doing consumer electronics with their branded things. I don't know
go
if they
back. What do you mean? Go
well,
back?
I mean, they had Google. Well, not the first, the Nexus. I'm thinking.
Yeah, but that was Google. That was a Google
branded,
joint, right?
Well,
it was actually not a Google device. It was co-branded.
So I'm just saying,
just like any Android
how
phone.
they're going to get this to consumers, I think, is kind of a strange idea. I don't think they can ever go direct back to consumers like they did with the Nexus. Is what I was getting at.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Anyway, the thing is, it definitely makes sense for their ecosystem, and they have that Google TV thing.
I don't see why not if you don't involve carriers and contracts, though. But anyway, go ahead.
Lost my train of thought.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Google TV, I mean, they wanted this thing to take off. It's actually getting in a lot more televisions. If you have access to your music in the cloud, or if they actually have G Drive, you have this stuff going around, it would be a lot easier. You can go, I'm going to put my account information connected to this device, and it always has my music. And it seems like it's an interesting idea for them to do that. They have the infrastructure for it, but I just don't know how they're going to get this in the hands of consumers unless like Logitech's doing it with them, or like who's going to be doing this, because they really need a good, strong retail partner. Because I think Sonos is a great product too, but like sometimes it's kind of hard to explain to somebody what it is. It's music everywhere, and it all works this way because it's all central. It's like, is it hard to set up? No.
I think this would be a lot easier to get in the hands of consumers because you don't have carriers involved. So you just make it available in the retail channel.
Well, they had Google TV and retail channels. It flopped. I'm just saying, like, it's about execution too.
Well, yeah, but you said making available. That's different than making it successful. Logitech Review is very available. You could buy it anyway.
Fair
just
enough.
no one did.
Fair enough.
That's the difference. Scott, you were going to say something?
Only that I think it's. I'm happy when Google is moving into these markets. I think that they're showing a lot of sort of, I don't know if the word prowess is correct, but they're showing a lot of, I guess, skill in the area of trying to integrate systems, and I'm all about being able to do more with my Google products on other devices, whether they're branded by Google or not. But I feel a little, I don't know, things got ugly with that weird Google TV launch, and Kevin Bacon was involved somehow, and the whole thing just got weird. And everybody I talked to hated that thing. They all got it and they hated it, and that's true. I'd never talked to anyone who liked it, except I think Tom, you may have said you kind of liked it.
The Logitech Review, once the software got updated, I use it all the time. Use it every night.
Yeah.
But it took over a year for it to get to the point where it's usable, and it's still buggy. It's not
It just
perfect.
feels like they need to be ahead of that curve a little bit when they launch. Whatever it is they launch, it just needs to be a little better than what we're used to from their launches.
Well, and
I think hackers are willing to sit around for a year, but the rest of us aren't.
Google TV was trying to invent an industry. This isn't really trying to invent anything. This is them saying, "Hey, we've got Google Music. Let's make a product like Sonos that's already been done. Let's make it well." So we may be overinterpreting this. Wall Street Journal says it's Google branded. It may be Google branded the way the Nexus is, or the way the HTC phones are, where it's actually not made by Google or marketed solely under a Google brand, but it's a Logitech device, or it's a Bose device, or God help us, or maybe it's even a Sonos device that has the Google branding on it. I mean, there's all kinds of ways they could go with it. Yeah. Real quickly, a couple more stories here. Lots of details coming out of Facebook's SEC filing for their IPO. Facebook execs get a twice-a-year bonus, up to 45% of their base salaries and other earnings based on performance. Mark Zuckerberg's base salary is only $500,000 a year. Now, that's more than Tim Cook's $1 and Steve Jobs' $1, but it's really not, as far as executive salaries go, not that much. Chief Operating Officer Sheryl Sandberg receives a base salary of $300,000. And more interestingly to me, Facebook's privately traded shares rose 10% after the filing for the IPO. This according to SharesPost, which manages auctions of privately traded shares in companies that aren't public yet. They just did an auction of 150,000 shares of Facebook's Class B common stock at $44. Now, compare that to the $40 they did at February 2nd. That puts Facebook's value now at $102.6 billion.
Isn't it the opposite usually? Doesn't usually right after an IPO some stuff goes down?
Well, this is before an IPO. This is not after an IPO. Yeah, after the stock actually becomes public, sometimes you see a dip. But this is privately traded stock. So this is stock that I hold because I'm an employee, but I'm trying to get rid of because I don't work there anymore. Gotcha. And I go and I sell it on a private market versus going and publicly trading stock. Facebook's stock is not available publicly yet.
Correct. It's interesting. It's Sheryl Sandberg. Okay, base salary of $300,000. That's a lot of money. But then if she gets 2 bonuses a year and each of those are almost $150,000, if it's a 45% of her base salary, pretty healthy bonuses. How about that?
And these salaries are these are tax loopholes, effectively. The thing is, if you go over a certain amount of money for a CEO or executives, you have to pay a lot more tax. So you structure it so there's tons of bonuses all the time. And Zuckerberg getting $500,000. I mean, I wonder what actual things make his bonuses.
Like, what is even the point? What is even the point of him getting?
He owns or controls the votes of most of the stock anyway. I mean, it's $500,000 is not that much for an executive salary, but at the same time, it's a lot for an executive who has the control that Zuckerberg has. He doesn't really need it.
That's what I'm saying. It's like it's almost a little silly. Like,
yeah, I see what you're saying.
Do you need?
Well, if he's going to hunt all his food, he's got to go to weird places. He needs the money to travel. Clearly,
Zuckerberg paid early contributors like Sean Parker $100 to seed their voting rights. So even though they got stock and they'll be able to make money off the IPO, they don't get the voting rights for that stock. That's Zuckerberg's voting rights.
$100.
So he's in control of this company.
Smart guy, set it up that well.
Definitely.
Well, for Sean Parker, $100 was a lot of money considering all that music we got for free that nobody paid for. Maybe $100 seems like a lot of cash.
$100 isn't a lot of money. You know what's a lot of money, Scott? $1,000.
Oh, now we're talking.
Finally, rest in peace, Kodak cameras. Eastman Kodak has said it will stop making digital cameras, pocket video cameras, and digital picture frames, but nobody cares about that. Within the first half...
Doctors' offices care about digital picture frames, Tom.
Not nobody.
Don't be uncool.
But you know what? They don't care that Kodak's not making it.
Yeah, no, they don't.
Anyway, no more. Kodak not making cameras, not making video cameras. They hope to save $100 million by killing those lines, and they will expand their current brand licensing program instead. So I guess you could still see cameras that say Kodak. They just wouldn't be made by Kodak. They'll continue to produce retail-based photo kiosks, inkjet printers, online photo galleries and apps, and camera batteries and accessories.
Don't you mean they are survived by?
They are survived by. Okay. Thank you. Kodak filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy back in January 19th. So this is all part of that restructuring plan.
Yeah, they want to work on licensing deals.
Are you sad, Scott Johnson?
Yeah, I am a little bit. Kodak's a name that's, been around forever, and it's got such, I don't know. I mean, it's the entire film industry has Kodak's name just slathered all over it, and to have it changed for them. I mean, surely they could have done other things during these transitions to digital and otherwise, that they could have, led the pack. There's no reason why everybody else is beating them, except that they missed opportunities or something. And I get it, but it's a little sad because there's just a lot. That name holds a lot of weight, and perhaps branding's the best thing to do because that name still has still means something. So maybe it's a good thing for them.
A lot of people in Rochester sorry to see Kodak go.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Headquartered there.
Let's pause for one last Kodak moment of silence. Silence.
Oh, sorry.
On to News Fuse. A group called Swag Security posted private information belonging to Foxconn on the Pirate Bay. The group posted a message on Pastebin explaining that it was protesting Foxconn's working conditions. The Pastebin message also said that the passwords inside these files could allow individuals to make fraudulent orders under big companies like Microsoft, Apple, IBM, Intel, and Dell.
Subscription music sales seem to be helping sales. Warner Music, they announced some revenue, and they stayed flat at $870 million, but digital revenue jumped 17% and now accounts for 28% of the company's total sales. While downloads accounted for $205 million in music revenue last quarter, payments from streaming services like Spotify and Deezer generated just $15 million. But streaming revenue is growing at a 36% clip compared to 15% for downloads. Eventually, these streams, if we forget the pun, will cross. It's interesting.
The FBI just released a file it had on Steve Jobs, which it put together because Jobs was a candidate to serve as a White House counsel on exports. Unsurprisingly, the FBI found out that Jobs could twist the truth and distort reality and was stubborn. And he wasn't a communist.
Oh.
Well, there you go. All Things D dug into the file and found out that Jobs was actually granted top-secret security clearance by the Defense Industrial Security Clearance Office between 1988 and 1990. There's really no reason for that.
Weird.
Intel announced more details about the 2013 Haswell processor. It's coming in 2013 is what that means. Haswell will use transactional memory, which Intel calls Transactional Synchronization Extensions, TSX, which implements a new thread locking mechanism that results in fewer memory locks, meaning higher performance on multi-core processors while keeping programming familiar for developers. Intel has already promised that the 22-nanometer processors will deliver a 30% power savings.
It's Windows for Haswell. Look for it.
It's an x86 processor, so it already exists.
Damn it.
So, wow.
Bloomberg reports that the Google acquisition of Motorola will get the Department of Justice's blessing, citing two people familiar with the matter. Oh, those two. Those two people also said that the DOJ will probably approve the plan by a consortium which included Apple, Microsoft, to buy those Nortel patents.
Yesterday, we told you about Michael Doyle and his patent on interactive web goodness. Pretty much he would own the Internet. A jury in Texas deliberated today for a few hours and concluded the patents were invalid.
Oh.
Many companies, including Google, YouTube, Yahoo, and Amazon, were named as a defendants, but they're off the hook now. The trials are canceled.
Don't those people who came to a settlement feel silly now?
Apple.
I wasn't sure if Apple came to... Well, we said we thought they did.
Then
so
I think it's Apple.
Okay. Craig at Deepfield Networks, deepfield.net, did an analysis of traffic on file-sharing networks after the takedown of Mega Upload. The analysis attempted to eliminate legitimate file sharing and focusing on just infringing uses. So, did the raid of Mega Upload strike a blow against copyright infringement? According to Deepfield, file sharing didn't so much decrease as become staggeringly less efficient, in their words. Instead of terabytes of North American Mega Upload traffic going to U.S. servers, most file-sharing traffic now comes from Europe over far more expensive transatlantic links. But there's still just as many files being shared.
That Lytro camera, remember that cool camera where you could focus after you take a picture? Well, Wireless Goodness dissected the camera and found some hidden potential in the Marvell Avastar 88W8787 chip, system on a chip. It has Bluetooth and Wi-Fi capabilities. Now, Lytro said that its first camera doesn't have Wi-Fi, it's not enabled, and connectivity is important to us, and we're working on it. Also inside the Lytro was an image sensor that wasn't much larger than the iPhones.
A new Nielsen report says that cord cutting is increasing in the United States. 4.5% of U.S. households are using a combination of broadcast-only and broadband to watch their content. The numbers seem small, but it increased 22.8% over last year. Subscriptions to wired cable also dropped 4.1%.
So I think we need stronger laws against scissors because of all of this cord cutting.
You certainly
Am
should
I right?
be running with them.
The Stop People with Scissors Act will shortly be presented to Congress.
Need a better acronym.
And now the randomizer. This just creeped me out and fascinated me, and I also kind of want one. It is an augmented reality installation by an artist named Carolina Sobecka. She calls the system All the Universe is Full of the Lives of Perfect Creatures. And it uses face-morphing apps, Blender 3D, a face tracker add-on, and Unity 3D to make your reflection turn into an animal's face that does exactly what you do. So you grimace, the dog face grimaces. You smile, the dog face smiles. It actually watches your facial muscles, and the ears on the animals will bend back the way an animal's would, even though they can't see your own ears bending back. It's pretty crazy. And every time you walk past the mirror, you get a different animal. So there's dogs, there's goats, there's cats.
Oh, weird.
Well, this is a mirror, though. I mean, there are a lot of webcams that have apps that can do similar things, but there's something strange about walking up to a mirror and seeing your head replaced with an animal's head. That's random at any given time, but it's quite a good use of technology. I think this is something I should have.
This is awesome.
It's pretty cool.
I mean, it would scare you for like the first couple of months, and then you wouldn't. You'd just be like your little animal friend.
Have guests over, and as they walk by, they're like, "What just happened? Why is my head gone?" I mean, you gotta.
I think they'd run for their lives. I mean, out of context, this is really scary.
The Vimeo video that they have up for this shows you how it works because it's in an angle. But imagine if you walk up and you don't see your own face anymore. You see a goat's head instead.
Oh wait, she doesn't see herself.
Well, when she's looking straight on, she's just seeing the animal face.
Well, that's not very helpful. I'd like the animal just to be on my shoulder.
Harder to shave. Yeah, that's true.
There should be some sort of offset setting for that.
You know, my wife saw this this morning, and she's like, "That's what you can get me for Valentine's Day."
Piece of cake.
She likes the dog.
You don't even have to worry about it anymore. You know, this should be easy.
So,
Tom.
Carolina Sobecca, once your installation is done, my wife would like your art. Let's move on to the calendar.
Probably very affordable, too. The DirecTV branded TiVo is now available in the U.S. just 4 short years after the original partnership was agreed to. Trial market started back in December.
I don't even care anymore.
I know.
I was
4 years late to the party.
For this
Me
4
too.
years ago.
Me
well,
too.
maybe you'll care that you get 100 hours of HD programming or 400 hours of SD shows. No. What about the ability to record 2 shows at once or access 7,000 movies on demand?
Don't care. Can do all that. DirecTV TiVo finally, or the DirecTV HD DVR finally caught up.
Yeah, exactly. This is absolutely too late. That DirecTV DVR is totally sufficient and actually great to use. So.
But then they're the TiVo loyals. You know, people love the TiVo loyals. Well, yeah. I'm sure TiVo is sorry to have lost you, but there will be others that would be excited about this. So I thought you should know.
Thanks, Sarah.
NVIDIA sent out press releases offering sneak peeks at quad-core firsts. That's what they called them. That's to happen during Mobile World Congress in a couple of weeks. All signs point to Tegra 3 Android devices. Woohoo! And late last year, HTC promised ice cream sandwich to a bunch of handsets. Yeah, we're going to get a bunch of handsets by early 2012. You don't even have to wait that long. Well, the company has posted an update on Facebook saying, yeah, most models aren't going to receive this until later this year, whatever that means. They do say the Sensation 4G, the Sensation XE, and the Sensation XL will receive the upgrade in March. So basically the rest of you are SOL.
Chad also says the plate of ice cream sandwiches will be delivered later this year.
I can't wait that long.
What's incoming?
A message.
Oh, a message. Awesome. Let's hear what this message is about. Apparently it's about cable television.
Hey, Tech News Today. I was just listening to the conversation you had about cable TV standards in the United States. Now, I live in Canada and am employed by Rogers, a Canadian cable network here. And the way I understand it is that the cable companies use a technology called SSDV, which switches the cable ATSC signals, which are what the new digital format is, so that a set-top box is only using up one channel at the same time, whereas if you have analog, you're using up a whole bunch of channels, and that's just bad for bandwidth. I mean, if we want these advances in DOCSIS so we can get those 100 megabit internet, we really need to stop wasting so much bandwidth on the cable and convert everything over to ATSC SSDV. And the best way to do that would be either converting to a cable card standard or getting set-top boxes into everyone's houses. Really, it's just the best way to forward innovation. I really think that it's time we just cut off the people watching NTSC over the air. Thanks, guys.
All right, I'm going to forgive you for your rhetorical solipsism because you work for a cable company. But I essentially, you're conflating two things here. One is, yes, the cable companies do need to transition off of having to deliver static analog cable because it uses up bandwidth. I don't disagree with you there. But you sort of imply that the only way to do that is to cut off this other system that would cut off Boxy's ability to use. And that's not true. QCam delivers digital channels, right? And in fact, there's what is the SDV technology?
Switch Digital Video is a standard that some cable companies are trying out. And what it does is the cable system won't send a channel unless somebody's actually asking for it. So if there's 10 of us, we all want to watch ESPN, they'll send it to just the 10 of you. You're not constantly getting a stream of every single channel, every single second. You're being sent specifically your content.
Yeah, and you don't need to get a box from the cable company to decrypt that. It can be you can get a box from a third party, right?
There was this weird FAQ on TiVo because people were concerned about this. There's an adapter for devices like a TiVo that allow you to continue using your TiVo. It's called it's a SDV adapter, and you can still access it. If you don't need the cable company's box, you probably need a box.
Right. It is fine to have a system like Cable Card, which you mentioned, but Cable Card is very limited. It doesn't give you all of the same features that you would get from digital cable. Cable companies seem to be wanting to play this two ways to force people to have to rent boxes from them. They just will not agree to a standard, which is why Allvid, which is a consortium pushing for a standard, is supporting the FCC still requiring QCAM to be sent. But it's not just about it's not about over the air at all. Don't use the word over the air because we're talking about cable. And it's not just about ATSC. It's not just about analog channels. It's about digital channels as well. And it's about the cable companies coming to the table and cooperating to allow third-party boxes to be bought to receive your television. And frankly, I still hold by what I said yesterday, which is it's a dying need. You should be working on delivering all of your channels over the internet with an internet-based service, so that we only need one connection, an internet connection, and we have the technology. We've had the technology for 15 years to be able to deliver all of this over the internet. We just, we've been waiting for the cost to come down. We've been waiting for the infrastructure to be rolled out. We're pretty much there. We're pretty much out of excuses for why you couldn't do this, except that it affects the business model negatively. Well, let's move on.
Brother. Amen.
Okay, let's move on to the email. The Moke writes in and says, at the time of this email, Tim Schafer and Ron Gilbert of Double Fire Entertainment have raised over $300,000. Well, it's well over $300,000 by now. He wrote $300,000 when he wrote the email on Kickstarter in a single day to create an old school point and click adventure game. I can't think of a single tech angle to the story, but how awesome! Well, of course, it's got a tech angle. It's a video game.
They're almost at $1 million.
It's programming.
Yeah, they're almost $1 million. Double Fine's a big deal. I mean, they're a respected development house. They've been doing stuff for years. They have their roots in adventure games. Adventures of Monkey Island was one of the first games Schafer ever worked on, and they've done really creative, interesting work since then. What makes this crazy isn't so much that they've jumped this high this quick, because there's a huge fan base of gamers who know who Double Fine is. So getting the word out wasn't kind of a problem. What's interesting about it to me is, whoa, here is a mainstream developer who got contracts with Microsoft. They put out console games, downloadable stuff. They've got their hands in lots of pots. Big push on Kinect, by the way. And then here's a company that's going to make a game based on fan support, a fan-supported project from a relatively high-profile developer. That's a big deal, and I can't wait to see what comes of it.
And they're over $1 million, by the way.
Yeah. Wow.
They are officially over $1 million.
That's amazing.
If you reload the page, 1,001,988 on the page I'm looking. So
I'm reloading, but it's
fantastic.
They're getting hit right now.
There it is.
Oh, there it is.
There we go.
We're officially over $1 million.
Timpani.
With 33 days to go. How big will the pot get?
Yeah, exactly. Wait a minute. Maybe the maximum was way larger than that. Let's just keep going.
But people won't pay for content. Okay, we really need SOPA, PIPA, and lots of really heavy DRM. That's settled.
Next email from Marco Ruiz. Hello, all. I watched your show, and I thought I'd give my 2 cents on the subject of Amazon Video getting even more content. Because of the added benefits, we joined Prime about 6 months ago. We have 3 Rokus in our home, and thought since Amazon is on the Rokus, it'd be a great addition to Netflix and Hulu Plus, since we're cord cutters for over 2 years. Let's make this story short. In the 6 months, I think we've streamed no more than 10 movies and shows. Now we hardly even think about it. We've kept Prime now because of the shipping, and we share with other family members. That's great. But when we went to try on Amazon Instant Video, it was a chore to find. It was a chore to watch anything. Amazon has a lot of content, I'm sure, but to find it, that's a different story. Once you do find a TV show or a movie, guess what? There's no queue. There's no playlist of any sort to add it to online or on Roku. I'm sure they're working on adding some sort of a queue. Somebody told me on the forums to use Amazon's wish list to save my titles. That doesn't help once you're using your Roku. So Marco's point is, listen, Amazon can have all the content in the world, but they need to give us a better interface to find and use it.
Cord cutters, do you agree?
I do.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Their old app for Roku was horrible. They have a newer one which is nicer. It's better. It's a little easier to use, but the fact that you can't go onto like an actual browser and then list everything you want, because searching through that stupid either with the up and down buttons or not having an actual keyboard makes it a lot harder to find these titles. And their organization is kind of silly, because if you want to watch Friday Night Lights Season 1, that might be all the way on the left side in their weird little carousel, and Season 3 might be way on the right, and 5 might be in the middle, because there's some weird ordering. I'm not sure why they did that. They didn't just put them together. So there's no easy way to find it. There's no easy way to queue it. And if you use their interface, it's not intuitive. So
I mean, they stack that stuff the way I stacked my DVDs. Like, it's the same mess.
Yeah. Hulu Plus is not that great on Roku either. You can't really search for anything easily. You can, but it's very cumbersome. But Amazon takes the cake.
You know, my Logitech review makes it very easy to use all these services because it has a keyboard.
Nice.
There's really
nothing
else to recommend that
Google
future, frankly. And the Amazon interface still kind of sucks, but I'll give them that. All right, that's it for this episode of Tech News Today. Thanks, everybody, for watching and submitting stories at our Reddit. Our subreddit is technewstoday.reddit.com. That's the place to go to tell us what stories you would like to hear us talk about. Scott Johnson, always great to have you on the show. Let folks know what's the scoop with the frog pants and the morning stream and the app slappy.
Oh, there's so much going on right now. Best place to go would be frogpants.com. We are gearing up for this year's Frog Pants get-together fan meetup. We call it Nerdtacular. Tom's been there 2 years in a row. I can't wait to see you there again. Going to be a big deal. It's in June this year, June 23rd, and lots of planning and stuff going on. Big concert to announce, all kinds of cool crap. But if they want to learn more about that and everything else I got going on, go to frogpants.com, or they can find me on Twitter at Scott Johnson.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm all for that. Good change.
Take that, Internet.
Yeah, Internet was not happy with your Twitter name change. All right, that's
Wait
it.
a second. Extra Life is gone?
Oh, now don't you
just
get
find out?
started.
I don't like this one bit. Dead to me.
Late to the party.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's it for this episode of Tech News Today. You can find us on the web, twit.tv/TNT. You can email us. Our email address is tnt@twit.tv, or you can give us a call. Our phone number is 260-TNT-SHOW. Derek Kitchen joins us, of course, because it's Friday tomorrow. We'll see you then.
Friday.
Don't do that.
Sorry.
Party and party.
Yeah.
Good night, Will.